I told him, I'm like, well, go tell the motherfucker if you want something, fucking, I'll come out there. We can get him up right now. So he was like, yeah. It was all right. I'll go tell him right now. So I'm watching this motherfucker. He still had weights in prison at that time. I was huge. And this dude was like a little itty bitty motherfucker, man. But he wanted to wrestle. So things got carried away like I knew they would. I end up picking him up, doing my signature move. We're still leadership. We're always gonna be leadership, and you know, that's the way it is, man. So it was fucked up for a lot of youngsters that didn't know any better and just got caught up in that, man. All right, you guys, it's episode 52 of Inner Demons, and without further ado, I'm gonna get straight back to it. You guys already know what it is. So, like I always say, I start out by telling you guys that I listened to the last video. I know where I'm at, so I'm going to jump straight back into this. So, there's a lot of stuff that's starting to go on right now. There's, you know, I'm trying to reach out to Julio. I'm trying to get him to work directly with me. I'm still building the regiment. I'm still trying to recruit, bring manpower in. I'm still trying to find other resources out there on the streets as far as connections. I'm starting to accumulate a lot of guns, which I'm going to get into in a minute. You know, there's things when you're building a regiment, there's things that you need off the top. And obviously that's drugs, money, guns, and your other resources like vehicles and the things like that you need. So this was a priority for me to get a lot of the guns that were out there on the streets. And you know, like I was telling you guys, a lot of the members, so I just did a Q&A yesterday. And one of the questions that was asked in the Q&A was, you know, basically if we made profits out there selling NF dope, NF product. And, you know, my response was, it was a lengthy response, but basically, you know, like I was saying in my response is, you know, we weren't just mules for the NF. We were out there trying to generate money, and we were doing what we had to do as far as the regiment goes. But we also had to live out there too. We had bills that we had to pay. So, you know, as regimental commanders, there's certain things that you got to do off the cuff to just keep your manpower happy. You know, there's protocols, there's rules, regulations, and there's a format that we got to go by or that guide us through the street activities. But as a regimental commander, there's certain things that, you know, leadership, they don't see these types of things working out there on the streets. If they're demanding a certain amount of money or they're demanding quotas or, you know, they got a tight grip on, you know, the money that's coming in and going out, as a regimental commander, I need to find ways to make it better for the manpower, because if I don't, I'm going to lose them. You know, if I'm out there as a regimental commander and I have these guys selling dope and that's all they're doing. They're literally mules for the NF. They're selling dope, NF dope, and I'm cashing them out, giving them more product, and that's all they're doing. They're going to get burnt out. So, you know, off the cuff, as a regimental commander, I think a good regimental commander understands this. Somebody that's been out there, somebody that has ran regiments, understands that there's certain things that you have to do as a regimental commander to make it better for the manpower. And one of the things that I used to do was, yeah, they were selling NF product, but they were also, I would also give them the latitude of selling their dope, giving them as well on the side product for the same prices that I was basically getting them from our connection. So, you know, at that time, I want to say pounds were going for $9,000, 9 racks. That's crazy, I know, because it's dirt cheap. It got dirt cheap over the years. Ounces at that time were going anywhere from 600 to 900. So I would give them ounces if that's what they were buying. If, you know, I had ounce guys, half ounce guys, quarter pound guys, half pound, whole pounds. It just depends. But I would give them, you know, for an example, I'd give them ounces at $400 or $500. I would give them, if they were buying whole pounds, I would give them a pound for like $5,000. And again, they were going for $9,000 at that time. And that's a blessing, because the dope at that time was good and people were buying it, and they were buying it at those prices and they were happy. So anyways, I got all that going on at this time. You know, I'm continuing to run around with Bling Bling. I'm doing all the things that this cat likes to do to keep him happy. But we're going forward on the limousine business. I told you guys that we bought Caesar's old business, which was a startup business. He moved on to a fleet. And you know, at that point, we started to work on trying to get that business up and off the ground. Me myself, I had another agenda as far as the business goes. Bling Bling, all he wanted to do was make money. He's seen the limousine business as a way to make money, to generate money, put money in his pocket, and that's cool. That was one of my purposes as well. But my other purpose was to use the limousine business as a way to launder the dirty money. I was controlling the books. I wanted to do the books, and I had told him that, you know, as business partners, I don't care. You want to be the president, you can be the president. I'll be the vice president. But as far as the money, the monetary or the financial part of it, I'm going to control the books because, you know, there's certain things that I need to do as far as, you know, just with the numbers. And he understood that. He wasn't tripping. He was just like, I'm not trying to get caught up in no tax shit. I'm not trying to get caught up in nothing like that. But I trust you, bro. So that was my other purpose as far as, so we're building the limousine business as well. At that point, you know, I have some experience as far as, you know, establishing a legitimate business, but, you know, I was winging it at that time. There's a lot of things that I don't know. You know, you get a business like this, there's certain things that you have to have. There's certain permits that you have to have. You got to have insurance for liability. So all those things, I was trying to educate myself when I was out there trying to learn about all this stuff, while at the same time, we're trying to get this business off the ground. We needed mechanics, we needed detailers, we needed drivers, and we needed more limousines. We needed to start generating money so that we could start to expand and grow as a business. So all those things were going on. Now, I started to utilize some of the manpower that didn't have legitimate jobs. Basically, these guys had a lot of time on their hands. So these guys were the ones that I started to use for the detailers. If they knew about mechanics, I would have them come over there. The shop was in an industrial part of San Jose off of Gish Road. I'm not familiar with San Jose as far as like if it's on the east side, the west side. I'm telling you guys, I used to get lost all the time. However, I know that it was off of Gish, and there was a lot of other cubicles, kind of, you know, little small businesses over there. It was in the cuts. So, you know, we had two big garage doors, sliders that we used to roll up, and you know, we pulled the limousine out, and we had with the business came a lot of tools and a lot of equipment. Homeboy hooked us up. You know, when he gave us the business, he didn't take a lot of stuff with him. He was just like, this is what I got. This is everything that you guys need to have in order to keep this business running. The jacks, the you know, the equipment, all the stuff for the limousine, all the, you know, everything that we needed. Now, the only thing that we had to, you know, learn on our own as well, and I kind of took over this myself, was as far as like, when you're running a limousine business, you have to have different packages. People are going to sign up. They're not just going to call you up and say, hey, I need a limousine, you know, for a couple hours. And we're going to go over here, and, you know, after that, we're going to hit this club, and then, you know, we're going to come back at around 2 o'clock. That's not how it works. There's different packages. They can, you know, they can rent it for like 4 or 5 hours and just go wherever they want to go. That's another different kind of package. But those packages, I had to write them up. I wrote them up myself, like a birthday package, a wedding package, you know, a prom package, something dealing with churches. They had all different titles, and they came with different perks and different kind of things. I wrote all this stuff up myself. A lot of the, you know, the pointers that I got were just from looking at other businesses that were in the yellow pages, like other limousine businesses out there in San Jose. What were they doing? I seen some of the, I grabbed some of the ideas that they had, the packages, I seen the prices. And, because we were basically at a disadvantage from a lot of these big companies, these fleets, we came in and, we were cutthroat in the prices. If they were doing certain packages for like $150, we come in at 100. So believe it or not, we started to generate a lot of business as soon as we got everything up off the ground, as soon as we got our permits, as soon as we were able to, start driving the limousine, we got a lot of phone calls. We started to generate a lot of business. And I told you guys, for the first, I want to say for the first couple of weeks, I was driving the limousine. I was doing the driving myself because, there was liability involved as far as finding drivers. And I didn't want to get caught up in none of that. So I figured the best way to do it was to just do it myself. Now, there were 3 people that were involved in the limousine business. It was myself, Bling Bling, and Julio, Don Julio, the connection. He wanted to invest money in it, but he wanted to be a silent partner. He didn't want his name out there. He didn't want his name in none of the, as far as like the packages or the limousine business, anything at all. He just wanted to stay a silent partner. Basically, it was a handshake. So that's what we did. Me and Bling Bling were the faces of the business, and Julio was just somebody that was investing money. So we had that. We were caught up in trying to, get that up off the ground. And, aside from that, I'm still trying to slide up under Julio. I haven't met him yet at this point. When he calls Bling Bling or when Bling Bling goes to meet him, I'm still sitting out in the car when he goes in, and he's not ready to meet me yet, which was fine. I wasn't trying to rush it anyway. So something had happened. I don't remember what it was, but something happened that made Julio move from Poco Way. Something happened with his apartment. I don't know if the cops came over there. I don't know if somebody tried to jack him. I don't know what it was, but something happened that made him take all his dope and move it to another location. So at this point, he was looking for a place to warehouse his dope, a good place that, that with somebody trustworthy and somewhere safe that, of his choosing. So I don't know where he kept the dope after he moved it from Poco Way, but I know that he had a bunch of paisas come over there, like 5-6 carloads. They came over there, they got all the dope, and they bounced out. They took it somewhere else. It was somewhere over by Bird. I remember that. I know that don't mean nothing to a lot of you that don't know San Jose, but for those of you that do, Bird is on the west side, I believe, over there by Campbell. Bird exit. So it was over there somewhere. He moved it. So aside from that, one of the other things that was going on at that time was the county jail was being ran by an individual named Joel Beta. Now, this is somebody that I know that I've done time with. They call him Blockhead. That's what they call him in the hood. He's from Palmas, but, he went to the joint and he picked up a Nawa name, and that name, he was going by a Thomi. So this was somebody that basically he took it upon himself to step up and take the county jail over because there was nobody there. Now, at some point, Chopo ended up driving up. Chopo from Watsonville. He was doing Fed time, so I don't know. I don't remember how or why he was brought to Santa Clara County, but at some point, I remember he arrived over there and they ended up putting him in Area 51 with Joel Beta. Now, I told you guys a couple episodes back that one of my regiment members, Model, was, he got busted and he went to the county jail and he was basically trying to run the jail. And he was trying to do it just based solely on the fact that he knew me. But he was causing more friction than anything because somebody was already running the jail. Model got in the jail. He ended up picking up, he made a boneheaded decision out there on the streets. It was one of them cats that was always fighting with his girl, and he was drinking a lot. So he ended up getting pulled over with a gun and some dope. So he ended up going back to the county jail, and he's fighting a new case. But while he's there, he just went in there and he just tried to just straight take the jail over based on the fact that he was working under me, and that's not how it goes. That's not how, that's bad business. So, I heard about it. There were individuals that were coming out of the jail, and they would report it through Pony or some of the other regiment members. Anyway, I heard about it. I ended up hearing about it. Motto ended up calling me eventually. So I got a line to the county jail. And, I basically shut him down, told him to sit down and fight your case. The jail's taken care of. Somebody else has already got the jail. So, Othomi was somebody that, like I said, I knew him from Pelican Bay. I was with him in C11 for a while. I want to say it was like 2 years. This is a sharp individual, somebody that I highly respected. He was hermano. I was with him in Quentin. So, he's somebody that I was comfortable with as far as, delegating him as the RC for the county jail at that time, which I did. Motto ended up shooting him my number after me telling him to, give him my number. Joe called me, and now I had an open line of communication with Joe to the county jail. Now, I'm running the streets. My main priority at that time is the streets, to generate money out there, to get this business going, to secure this connection. And there's a lot of things that I was trying to focus on the streets. The county jail wasn't something that I was really trying to get involved in. I wasn't trying to make a full-time job out of running the jail. So I told Joe, look, bro, you've been around, you know how things work. Go ahead and run the jail. You don't need to bother me with the day-to-day, happenings, things that happen in the jail. You can deal with that. If there's issues that you need to get at me about as far as somebody getting hit or removal, something like that, there's friction in there between, the homies in another group segment or something like that, something of concern, then holler at me, get at me. In the meantime, you can keep me abreast of everything that's happening, but go ahead and run the jail. You know how to do it. So he was. Now, Chopo was there. Chopo ended up being his neighbor. Chopo ended up calling me a couple times as well, but his thing was like, nah, bro, I'm not running this jail. I just want to, I'm only going to be here for a minute. I got a federal retainer. I'm going back to the feds on a violation. So I'm just passing through. Chopo was somebody, like I told you guys, I'd known him for years. I was with him in the adjustment center in San Quentin, and he was somebody that I pulled, as a matter of fact. Well, I was his sponsor. Let's just say that. I was his sponsor. Mike Eo is the one that really pulled Chopo. I told you guys, with all due respect, I didn't, at that time, and it was just my opinion, I didn't think that Chopo was C material. And obviously I was wrong. He's still active. He's still doing his things. But Chopo's one of them guys that knows how to navigate. He's one of those guys that can just slip and slide, get through the cracks, and just barely do what he's got to do, and that's it. He's not somebody that's going to go out there on the streets and get a regiment up and running and start generating money. He's not somebody that has that type of initiative. He'll go out there and he'll work, and he'll get involved with a regiment if there's one up and running, but he's not the kind of cat that's going to go out there, do all the grunt work, get everything up and running. And he's never been like that. The homeboys from Watsonville, a lot of them that I've talked to, they told me, Chopo, he's just like, man, he's never really done nothing out there. The only one that was really making moves were like Baby Joker. Alex is another homie that was out there that, he made a lot of moves as far as establishing a regiment. Lucifer, he was a young C. He was somebody that just had got recruited. But Lucifer, he hit the streets running. He went out there and he started to try to establish a regiment out there as well. you know, a lot of the homies, I told you guys before, a lot of the homies from Watsonville, they didn't believe in prison politics. They didn't want to get involved in that stuff. Those homeboys out there, they're laced up a different kind of way. And it's a good way. It's not a bad way. It's a good way. It's all, you know, a lot of their older homies laced them up like that. You know, I told you guys about this before in one of my breakdowns that I did on Watsonville, Baby Joker profile and all that. But, you know, anyway, Chopo, I don't want to get off track. Chopo was there. One other thing that happened out there around this time that kind of happened out of nowhere is, I want to say it's been so long, I don't remember. It was either Dimitri or it was Gato Marquez. One of those two individuals, they ended up catching a case. And they had a 5-gallon barrel of bromine. Bromine is some type of chemical agent that you can use to cut or to manufacture narcotics. Some kind of, I don't know if it's meth, I don't know if it's PCP, something, but it's there was a 5-gallon barrel of bromine. And, you know, like I said, whether it was Gato or Dimitri, they called me up and they're like, look, bro, you know, I got this 5-gallon barrel of chemicals. It's worth a lot of money. I don't want nothing to do with it right now. I'm fighting a case. They blew my spot up. It's hot. My girl's freaking out. We got it at a public storage place. She was like, look, bro, if you don't want it, we're about to dump that shit. And I was like, nah, bro, I'm gonna come pick it up. Tell your lady, you know, to call me and I'll meet her somewhere. So that's what I did. I ended up meeting her somewhere on the east side, over by the city storage where they had it. I didn't know what to do with this 5-gallon barrel of bromine. I didn't know how I could use it, but I knew that I could use it. I would get in touch with somebody, somehow, some way. I could either sell it or somebody would know what to do with it. I didn't know where to put it though. You know, I didn't have a storage place, or I didn't want to keep it at the apartment. What I ended up doing is I brought it to the apartment, and out in the apartment in my carport, I had a locker. Like every apartment over there had like a little storage locker. So I just threw it in there and just kind of forgot about it. I want to say it's for PCP or something. I don't remember, but it was chemicals that were supposedly expensive, and you know, the homie wanted to get rid of them because he was freaking out or his girl was freaking out. So I picked him up. That's something else that I remember was happening at that time. Now, again, you guys got to understand, by this time, I've probably been out there probably like 3 or 4 months by now. And I got all these different things going on, but I'm still continuing to build. I had put a regiment together within 4 months that was a pretty good sized regiment. I had up to 20 individuals that were functioning under me. That's a good sized regiment. Usually a typical regiment is between 6, 7, 8 guys. They keep them small, and that's just the way they, you know, usually that's how it is. But I had a good sized regiment. There was a lot of homies that wanted to work with me. I knew a lot of homies from doing time. When homeboys out there in San Jose found out that I was out there, they wanted to plug in and work with me, which was fine with me. I needed the help. So, you know, I told you guys that I brought in Turtle from 9-5. Baby G is another one you guys have heard about, got caught up in Operation Quiet Storm. He's the one that ended up getting arrested for allegedly shooting somebody outside the county jail for killing his son. So, you know, I brought those two individuals on, and, you know, both of them were you know, they were hustlers as far as slinging dope and other things that I was using them for. They benefited the regiment. Two other individuals that I had working with me at that time were the Martinez brothers. I had Sykes, Martin Martinez, and his brother, Angel Martinez. Now, Angel was just a package deal, to be honest with you guys. Sykes was the one that I really brought into the regiment. Angel was his little brother. He's somebody that wanted to work, but really, you know, from the onset, I wasn't really in a hurry, for the lack of better words, to bring Angel into the regiment. Because for one, like I said, you know, I just did this Q&A the other day, and I mentioned Angel in one of the questions that was asked, and it was a question about, what did I do with individuals that weren't that sharp, or guys that lacked intelligence? Well, Angel fit that bill. Aside from being a burnout, he was somebody that he dabbled out there in whatever kind of drugs that he could get his hands on. And I sat him down prior to bringing him in. Matter of fact, I sat him down with his brother. There were times we were going to sock Angel up, me and Sykes both, because he was out there using dope. I talked to Sykes and was like, hey, bro, I'm going to bring your little bro over here and I'm going to get at him and I'm going to bend his ear, bro, because he keeps doing dumb shit. And Sykes would be like, hey, bro, if you want me to come over there, I'll sit in and we'll fuck him up. You know what I'm saying? He needs it. But, he would always be out there getting loaded and he would call me and he would be doing stupid shit. He'd get drunk. He'd go to bars and end up getting into fights. And he'd, call me and be like, B, I need you to come over here. There's a couple cats. And, that's the kind of stuff that he was doing. And I didn't have time to babysit somebody like that. But I brought him in because of Sykes. And like I said in that Q&A, Angel was somebody that I gave a lot of latitude to, and it was only because of his brother. If it wasn't for Sykes, I probably would have got rid of Angel a long time ago, or I would have got rid of Angel, early on. Now, I don't want to get too far ahead because I haven't even mentioned this yet, but for those of you that remember, Angel was actually one of the individuals that was stationed over there in Campbell. I had brought him over to that apartment complex to keep security on that apartment because I was going through some issues with the Southsiders over there at that time. Shout out to the Sureños over there, the upstaters. But long story short, Angel and another NR member, Willow, both pissed on themselves when I got into that shootout. Neither one of them got a shot off, and they played. They dummied up. What happened? You know what happened. Anyway, like I said, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself because I haven't even mentioned that, but I mentioned it in the Q&A, so that's why I'm touching on it. Anyway, so we got the limousine business going. We got, we're trying to find drivers. We're trying to recruit mechanics. I'm accumulating guns off the streets. I'm telling the regiment members that, anybody that comes to you on the streets with a gun that they want to trade for dope, get them. I want all the guns that you can get them all off the streets. So, in a short period of time, I accumulated a lot of guns. Basically, we ended up having around 60 guns. We had everything, every kind of handgun you can think of. 357s, 9mm, 38s, 22s, 44s, 45s. We had, AK, we had AK-47s, we had SKSs, we had shotguns. I mean, we had everything, Uzis, Tech 9s. So I had accumulated a lot of guns. Now, at that time, I didn't have nowhere safe that I wanted to keep them at. I didn't want to keep them at my apartment. So I told you guys in the last episode, I met John Santa Ana, which was Pony's uncle. Or, Pony was with his wife. She was related to John Santa Ana. I want to say that was her uncle. But, John Santa Ana, again, is an older cat that opened his doors to us. He allowed us to keep our guns over there at his house. And he was just looking out. He wasn't somebody that used to run the streets. I told you guys he was an older dude, had a lot of health problems. His girl had health problems, but he was just trying to look out for us. He knew what I was doing, and in some type of way, he wanted to assist. So he was like, look, B, if you want to keep your guns over here, you could throw them here in the garage. Plus, I think he just liked having all them guns over there so he could play with them. And like I told you guys, it was pretty cool. John Santa Ana was a machinist, and that cat made guns for every one of my regimental members that looked just like this. They were 22s. He made them to look just like a pin. They were heavy. They were all, it was obviously all steel. And, obviously you can only put one bullet in here. So you unscrewed it down the middle and you put the bullet in, and it had, that was the pin right there. You pulled it back, you aimed it, you pulled it back, and bam. And I think this little piece right here was some type of safety or something. Boy had skills. It was pretty, they were nice. And when they found him, I ended up, just for that one weapon right there, I was looking at another strike. Crazy, man. So, the regiment's growing. I'm recruiting more manpower. So I told you guys in the last episode that there was an individual named Conejo from EHP that I had brought over from another regiment. This was an individual that was in a lot of trouble. He was somebody that was about to get removed. And I basically threw him a lifeline because some of my regiment members found out about it and they put it in my ear. So, Conejo, when I brought him on board and I got all his issues straightened out, I remember the day that I told Pony, my second in command, bring him over to my apartment. We need to sit this dude down and make some things clear to this guy. He's coming in as somebody that was in a lot of trouble, and I want to make sure that he gets on track and he doesn't start doing the same things that he was doing over there, because we're not going to tolerate it. Like, we got a zero tolerance policy with him, and I want to make that clear to him. I want to make sure that he knows that he needs to come over here and just roll his sleeves up and get straight into it and fly up under the radar, man. I don't want to hear his name. I had took responsibility for him, so he was my responsibility from that point on. Now, Pony ended up bringing him over, and we sat him down in my living room, and I made it clear to him, man. This is how the regiment's this is how it runs right here. This is what you're gonna be required to do. This is what's expected of you, and if there's an issue, this is your chance to speak on it. But I want to make sure that from this day forward, that you're up under the radar and you're doing everything that you're supposed to be doing, like problem free, homie. You know what I'm saying? You're not gonna fall in debt over here. If you're giving product on consignment, we're gonna start you out small, but you need to bring all the money back. We're not gonna play that game with you over here. So, I wasn't an asshole to the guy. I could be strict when I needed to be strict. And this was one of those situations where, I didn't want him to think that I was the type of C that would allow him to take a lot of rope and run with it and it would be okay. I didn't want him to get that impression about me. So, when it came to Conejo, I made it a hard line with him. And for the first, at least for the first couple of weeks, everything was straight with him. He was doing everything that he was supposed to do. We would give all the members a certain amount of product, including him. And like I said, I started him out small, and he'd go out, he'd dump them, and he'd come back with the money, and there was no issues. So, he was working, doing everything he was supposed to be doing. Now, I had implemented my own policies out there. All the members were required to do certain things, throughout the day. I didn't want them to feel like, we were riding them. But when you're out there running a regiment, you got to make sure that your manpower is doing what they're supposed to be doing and that they're on track. Otherwise, you'll lose them. The streets are wide open out there. So every day they were required to tap in with Pony in the morning, and then at nighttime they were required to tap in with them, before they called it a day. And that's just to make sure that everybody's accounted for and that everybody's doing what they were supposed to do out there. Now, at this point, I still hadn't met Julio yet, but I was getting a good amount of product on consignment from him through Bling Bling at that point. Bling Bling would come out with 3 or 4 pounds, and he'd be like, bro, he's giving this to you right here at this price, and sling it, work it, bro. Get your guys, man, to move it. So that's what I would do. I would take that 3, 4 pounds, whatever it was, I'd chop it all up. I'd make 50 to 100 ounces, however many it was, and then I divvy it up through the manpower, with all the manpower. Now, some of the other policies that specifically surrounded the dope or with respects to the dope were, like I said, I understood that these guys had to pay bills. I understood that they had to put food on the table for their families. They got to provide for their families as well. They can't just be out there, slaving for the NF. So I wanted to make sure that there was a lot of room for them to make money, profit for themselves. So I did that by dropping the prices and by allowing them to also sling their own personal dope. And a lot of RCs, a lot of them don't allow them to do that. But this is something that, like I said, as an RC, I would like to think as a good RC that I always did. And it kept the manpower happy. It kept them, wanting to work with me. So, I'd give them all, like, just for an example, I don't remember off top, but everybody had a certain amount based on what they could sell within, I want to say it was a week's period of time. I had a policy that basically said, do not ask for any more dope on consignment than you can sell within a week. If you can't sell it within a week, don't ask for it, because somebody else could get that dope and they might be able to move it. And we're not going to sit on it. I don't want you guys to ask for 2 or 3 pounds and it's taking you guys a month to get rid of it. If you can only move a quarter ounce, or if you can only move a quarter pound within a week, then that's what you're going to get. So that was one of the policies. The other policy was, when I would get the regiment dope and I would chop it all up and divvy it up according to those numbers that I just told you guys, I would also tell them, now the only requirement at this point is you guys need to go out there and sell the regiment dope first. So they would get the regiment dope, and a lot of them would be like, when the dope would come in, they would want to, invest some of their personal money so that they could sling some dope on the side, which was cool. So, depending on where all the numbers were at, obviously we were keeping track, me and Pony. This guy, he gets 11 ounces plus he wanted to, buy a half pound. So, he's taken care of. This guy over here, he can only sell 3 ounces in a week. So we give him 3 ounces plus he bought an ounce. So that's how we were doing it. And everything was going smooth. These guys were putting it out there on the streets and they would come back with the money and we just kept flipping it. We kept flipping it. At this point, I want to say it was like 25 regiment members that were working at that time. And when you have that many individuals that are all working, as a collective, and some of them are pound guys, some of them are quarter pound guys, ounce guys, all the way down to teeners, it adds up. The money started adding up. It started coming in. I was like, damn, we're making a lot of money. And the prices that Julio was giving us, he was blessing us. So at this point, aside from all that, I'm trying to remember as much as I can when I'm telling you guys about all this stuff. Now, I had a visitor that I would send up to the county jail once a week to pull out either Corny, Pinky, Tibbs, or Skip. So she was somebody that, they felt comfortable with. The visitors, they really, emphasized that it was somebody that wasn't related. They wanted somebody that, preferably somebody that looked somewhat professional. Obviously, they didn't want a little homegirl to go in there with teardrops, and all baggied out. They wanted people that looked professional and that were somewhat trustworthy. But there was also the trust factor. They had to feel comfortable. I would send a visitor up there and there would be times where they'd be like, nah, I'm not feeling her. Don't send her back. And I'd have to go out and find another one. So we had 2 different females and they liked them. Corny, Pinky, Ted, Skip, they all liked these 2 visitors. So, they were trustworthy. They did what they had to do. They knew what their responsibility was. Basically, they went in there. When they were housed in Santa Rita, it was a little different. But when they were housed at the Glenn McGuire facility over there in Oakland, which is a federal detention facility, they didn't have no cameras in the visiting room, which I thought was crazy. Because, I would have thought that they would have been watching these guys, like their every movement, but there was no cameras in there. So the visitor, I would send her in with like a little half pencil or a half of a pen that was cut. and she would have a little small piece of paper to write on, and she would also have some information going to them that I was facilitating back out. So she would throw that up on the window, they would read it, and then a lot of the times they would respond to her. And some of it was coded up so that the visitor didn't know what we were talking about, and some of it wasn't. Some of it was stuff that we weren't able to code up because we had a lot of different words covered, but there were different things that were coming up that just we didn't have the words for them, or it was just something that the visitor didn't know how to, she didn't know how to put it down on paper. So it just basically had to be written the way that it was. That's what I'm trying to tell you guys. So, I got a visitor there that's going up once a week. So, basically those guys at that point, we're making a lot of money. Corny, Skip, Tibbs, and Pinky, they're letting us do our thing out there, but they're starting to control the books a lot more. They really wanted to know like how much money was coming in, how many members were working in the regiment for the commission. The 25. I told you guys in the Q&A also that everything is based on, the size of a regiment, the money that you're going to contribute. It's all these are all factors: the size of the regiment, how many individuals are working in the regiment, how much you guys are established as far as criminal activity, and the thing basically what you're involved in as far as criminal activity. So all criminal activity is 25% of that off the top. It goes to the main bank. So if we're out there committing robberies, we're slinging dope, we're into extortion or whatever it is, 25% of that goes to them off the top, which is the main bank. The rest of it goes to the regiment. Now the regiment, it's supposed to be capped off at $10,000. Anything above $10,000 is supposed to start getting siphoned out to the main bank as well. But I don't think nobody in their right state of mind does that as far as a regimental commander. I've had up to 30, 40,000 out there. That was regiment money. And, it wasn't getting contributed back because we need that money. These guys, with all due respect to them, a lot of them have been down since the 70s. A lot of them have been down since the 80s. So in their mind, their mentality. So, what I'm trying to tell you guys is like, there's certain things that they're requiring us to do. There's certain expectations that they want, but they're basing it on, what they remember, how the streets were when they were out there. And law enforcement isn't like that anymore. Law enforcement is a lot more advanced than they were in the 70s, 80s. So, a lot of the times I used to have to make decisions that were in the best interest of the regiment, because it was like, man, we can't do that. These guys don't understand. It's not like the 70s. So it was all about security. Security was always my main focus out there. Anyway, so just to cap it off again, so we're working on the limo business. I got a line directly to leadership once a week. I'm plugged in with them. I'm in touch with the other brothers from Salinas, Baby Joker. I was in touch with him at that time. They wanted us to start networking with those guys because we had the connection, Julio. So at that time, I don't think we were really networking yet because we hadn't really established, that much trust with the connection yet. I was getting a little bit of dope and I was sending it out there to Salinas and sending some to Baby Joker in Watsonville, but it was on a small scale at that point. Later on, once, we seen the potential that Julio, the amount of dope he was capable of basically providing us, the sky was the limit. Then we started to network with Salinas and Watsonville and San Francisco. So, they wanted us to basically sew up the whole area out there from Salinas to Santa Rosa to San Francisco to San Jose to Watsonville because we had the connection to do it. Julio ended up being a big, it was a win for us when, when we got that dude. Anyway, so one of the other things that was going on at that time, I told you guys that me and Bling Bling had went to IKEA to, get all the office supplies or the office furniture for the limousine business. He got a desk, I got a desk, we got some lamps and some stuff to put in there and to make it look like a legitimate business. So, we took care of all that. And then from that point, again, the limousine business was still in the infancy stages. We were still building it. There were still things that we were still working on. So, I basically told Bling Bling that I wanted to have a meeting with all the manpower. I wanted to get them and sit them all down and come up with some type of plan that worked for everybody. I wanted to incorporate the dope, because we were trying to utilize the connection. We were trying to get as much as we could. So I was trying to utilize, the limousine business and the dope to benefit the regiment or benefit the NF, however you want to say it. So I told Bling Bling, let's have a meeting. Let's bring all the manpower over and let's sit them down and talk to them and, set all the protocols and the procedures and all that stuff down. Now, this is where it gets kind of funny. So I have a way of, I have my business acumen, and a lot of it is based on, the criminal element, things that I've learned in prison, a lot of the things that I've been indoctrinated on. It's a certain way. Plus, just the criminal mentality, the way that I think, it goes all the way back from like when I was 12 years old. That's just the way that I was. Now, Bling Bling was a lot different. He was cut from a different cloth. So when I told him that I wanted to get all the manpower and to sit him down and have this meeting, his thing was like, bro, let's go get one of those whiteboards and we can get a couple markers and we can sit down and like he wanted to do a PowerPoint. He wanted to do a PowerPoint in front of the manpower. Basically, he wanted to get up and throw his ideas out there. And, I listened to him and I gave him a lot of latitude because, again, you guys got to understand, I had an objective, and my objective was still to get that connection. And at that point, I hadn't had him yet. So I wanted to make him feel like he was part of not leadership, but that he had some say in what was going on. The business, the limousine business, we were equal partners. But that doesn't mean that he was going to be, a leader to the regiment. But I kind of let him feel like he was. Now, this was something that I talked to the regiment members about before we had this crazy meeting. I sat them all down and talked to them and told them, look, this is my objective with this guy. This is what we're going to do. And it's going to be like a clown show, man. But, go with it. If anything, it's just a chance for us to all get together, socialize for the day, and, establish some things that we need to establish for the regiment and for the product that, is going to be basically that's going to be given to us on consignment. So, they were good with it and they understood. They understood the purpose. So that's what we did. But it ended up turning into something that, we would later talk about. It was an inside joke because, Bling Bling's way of doing business, again, was a lot different. Aside from the PowerPoint, the one crazy thing that he wanted everybody to do was he wanted everybody to sign contracts. And you guys got to keep in mind that, he wanted them to sign he wanted them to sign their name on a piece of paper that basically was, it was about how the dope was going to be sold. It was about criminal activities that we were going to be involved in. And what criminal in the right state of mind is going to sign his name on a document and say, yeah, I was involved in criminal activities and yeah, I'm agreeing to pay this money back for this amount of dope. And, yeah, you know, I'm going to be working for this limousine company that's going to be involved in money laundering and tax evasion and all this other stuff. That was a huge thing that I got blindsided with when we were doing that. We'll call it a PowerPoint presentation at his house that day. A lot of the manpower, I can already see them. They started shifting around and grumbling and mumbling like, I ain't signing shit, you know. And we caught a break at one point, and I took them all outside, and I was like, look, man, just just go with it. Go with it. I'm gonna make sure that I get all those papers, everything that you guys sign, including mine and his, and I'm gonna destroy them. So don't trip. You know, this is just, this dude's different. You know, you guys got to understand that he comes from a different world. So they all signed their names. They all signed their names on a big list, and it was crazy, man, because that shit ended up in discovery. Now, I destroyed when we had that meeting, and you know, I got all those documents that I told the manpower that I was going to get with their signatures on them, and I did destroy them. However, what I didn't know is that when we got them, this fool went and copied them before I had a chance to destroy, you know, to get the copies that I needed to destroy. So I didn't know that there was another copy that he had, you know, another set that he had copied. I would find out later when all the raids would come and they hit his house. He had them in a file somewhere. I couldn't believe it. It was all bad, but that just, it tied us into something that, you know, they blew up, that they blew that up. You know, the DA and the cops that spearheaded these indictments, they were like, this is clear, you know, evidence right here that these guys were involved in money laundering, tax evasion, and you know, they were pushing dope, a lot of product. Look, these guys agreed to, you know, sell this much dope and not to take this much dope unless they could sell it within a week. All the policies and everything were on there. So it was all bad. So anyway, I wouldn't find that out till later. Like I said, we had the meeting. We had it at Bling Bling's apartment, and you know, we spent pretty much the whole day over there just chopping it up with them. Some of us, you know, just utilized that time to catch up because, you know, I wasn't out there on the streets that much with a lot of these guys. That's not what I was doing. The streets were hot at that time. You know, Operation Black Widow was already in effect. So, you know, I go by their houses individually and I chop it up with them and I get around to the manpower. But Pony that was his responsibility to deal with the manpower, the day-to-day activities. So I didn't get to see him all that much. But that day, you know, we kicked it. We threw a little barbecue over there. We went over everything that we needed to go over as far as the limo business, the dope, how we were gonna move it, and everything from that point on was going good. But again, in closing this episode up right here, I did not know that this slimy ass dude had copied, you know, all those signatures, that he had another copy. He did it slick because, you know, I made sure that I got that hard copy that same day that I was there. So he must have had his lady throw it, you know, on a printer or something, do it quick, underhandedly sometime, because I didn't leave before I had that, before I got it. So you got to understand, and he was in my presence the whole time. So he did it somehow, inconspicuously, he did it. But it ended up catching up, man. And you know, as a regimental commander, though, like I said, I took responsibility for it. I didn't know that, you know, he was going to make those copies. Anyways, that meeting right there, it ended up being an inside joke later on, before, you know, all the politics came into effect later on in the county jail when everything happened later. But it was like just the inside jokes. Like this fool, you know, wanted to do a PowerPoint on a white chalkboard, and he wanted us all to sign our names. You know, a lot of the you know, the members of the regiment, they tripped out on that, but it was clear, you know, it was clear indication that Bling Bling was just a different character. He came from a different walk of life. He didn't think like a criminal, because You know, who does that? Who signs a document like that admitting to criminal activity or admitting, you know, that's an easy conspiracy right there. But anyways, I think this is a good time to cut this one. You know, I covered a lot. There's a lot of other things that are going to start happening, you know, with Salinas, with Watsonville, and just some other things. So there's some things I might have missed in this episode. Like I said, there's a lot going on with the visiting, with the limo business, with things that are starting to happen at my apartment, with Julio, with Bling Bling. So I have my hands in a lot of different things out there. And you know, it's gonna start heating up. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I'm gonna try to get you guys out another episode either tonight, see how I do before it gets too late, or if not, I'm gonna try to hit you guys with one tomorrow. And I'm gonna try to get you guys some more stories. And we're working on those profiles. Again, if you guys got more questions, shoot those to the community as well. And don't forget about our giveaway on the American Bully. If you guys want to be put in the pool of prospective or potential candidates for the American Bully, put your name and a little something inside the community. With that said, it's your boy B. This is episode 52, and I'm out.